There's more to imagine when you listen, so let your imagination soar with Audible. Audible has audio titles from every genre that will inspire you to imagine new worlds, possibilities, and ways of thinking. As an Audible member, you get to choose one title a month to keep from their entire catalog. Enjoy an exciting reawakening of a beloved classic with the Audible original David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, produced by Academy Award-winning director Sam Mendes, starring Ncuti Gatwa, Helena Bonham Carter, and Theo James. This adaptation breathes new life into a familiar tale. New members can try Audible free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/imagine or text IMAGINE to 500-500. That's audible.com/imagine or text IMAGINE to 500-500.
Are you struggling to close deals? Cold outreach is wasting the time of both the buyer and seller at every stage, especially when sellers are using shallow and outdated data. Your organization can overcome these challenges with technology that translates comprehensive, high-quality buyer data into real-time insights. These deeper insights empower sales reps and teams to adopt the habits of top performers, which leads to better outcomes, like more pipeline, higher win rates, and larger deals. We call this deep sales. And we've built the first deep sales platform with the next generation of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/trial. That's linkedin.com/trial for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/trial and get started.
Welcome to How to Survive, the show that teaches you how to survive the stuff that can kill you,
like broken elevators, or tropical storms, or childhood trauma.
and the stuff that just makes you wish you were dead.
Like drinking and boating. Or local news.
Oof.
Or TV execs.
Oh, that's the worst one.
That is the worst one.
Never, ever, ever.
Get on a boat with a TV exec.
That's exactly what I wanted to say, but my mouth wouldn't.
Your brain
My
wouldn't.
mouth was like, no, don't make those words. You know what words my mouth will make?
Our theme song?
Yes.
Genius.
Ground is shaking under our feet. Mountains on fire, flooding in the street. Can't breathe the air, can't fight the feeling. Gobbling down Xanax ain't the way to be dealing. Gotta do better than just getting high. We gotta stick together if we're gonna survive. Ooh, how to survive. Ooh, how to survive.
Hello.
Hey.
How you doing?
Not bad.
Yeah,
How about you?
I'm fine. Garen, how are you?
Great.
You're
A little
wearing...
warm.
I have to ask, is this a gay Scream shirt?
Yes.
Okay, because it's the Scream mask with lots of rainbows swirling around
Yes.
it.
Scream pride.
But doesn't that mean that, like, gays are predators? That's what I'm going to start
That's
spreading
the
on the
world-
internet.
That's the world we seem to be living in nowadays.
Yep.
That's the belief system.
God.
You guys, Kamala doesn't have kids and she laughs. It's going to be a problem.
I can't vote for that.
I can't vote for that. No, no. I've had too much caffeine.
And it's too late to get her kids, right?
She has stepkids. That's as close as we're going to get.
She's a stepmother.
Yes.
I don't think that's going to work in her favor.
They call her Mamala Kamala.
Oh my God, that's so
Yes.
cute.
Are we ready to learn about
Yes.
today's How to Survive? We are going to... This is for you and Drew Barrymore.
Oh, okay.
We're going to learn how to survive childhood trauma.
Oh my God, please. I've been trying to sort it out for so many years.
Okay. Childhood trauma occurs more often than we may think.
Wow.
According to CDC research, it's estimated more than 60% of American adults have experienced trauma.
Oh, that's a lot.
When we are young children, we don't usually have a clear understanding of what is going on and how it may have a traumatic effect on us growing up. But in reality, we're constantly exposed to the possibility of a traumatic event. When we are adults, we gain an understanding of the potential effect it has on us. We can also assess how a professional therapist can help us work through it. Okay, childhood trauma happens when children are exposed to distressing or emotionally painful events. This can include events like actual or threatened death, serious injury, or sexual violence. Childhood trauma not only occurs when a child experiences an event themselves, but also when a child is exposed to traumatic events. Okay, this includes experiencing direct trauma exposure, witnessing trauma, or exposure to trauma. Common types of childhood trauma in children are. Are you ready to do your checkoff list?
Are we doing the ACEs now? Have you heard of this?
No, what's the ACs?
AC are adverse childhood experiences, and it's a checklist, and the higher your number, the more fucked you are. And so I was like, oh, my number is very high. Like, it's a checklist you can do, and I was like, oh God, I have a really high number, and you don't want that. Okay, but I'm ready. Let's go.
Child maltreatment, which is abuse or neglect, exposure to domestic violence, bullying, community violence, motor vehicle accidents, natural disasters. Obviously, those are just some of them. And abuse and neglect is probably kind of wide range of things. These traumas can result in distress. Mental health disorders like post-traumatic stress disorder and post-traumatic stress syndrome can develop. I don't know what the difference is between those two things. There are lasting negative effects to experience an adverse childhood experience. Physical health. Examples include, these are the lasting, right? These are what can happen to you as an adult once you've experienced childhood trauma. Examples include obesity, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and other health stressors. Behaviors. Examples include alcohol and drug consumption, eating disorders, substance abuse, or substance use disorders. Life potential. Examples include academic achievement, relationships, or careers. Oh, did you say ACEs? Mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about. ACEs impact children socially, emotionally, and cognitively. While incredibly challenging, overcoming childhood adversity and child trauma is possible. Okay, physical or sexual abuse. This kind of trauma can cause not only physical damage to the child, but also a psychological damage that can last for years after it happened. Physical abuse includes any kind of physical violence against a child. It's sometimes masked as a discipline measure by many adults. And I would posit that you can also be physically abused by your older siblings.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can come hand in hand with substance abuse, or younger siblings if they've really got it together.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Sexual abuse can mean a child experiences direct sexual acts, but sexual abuse doesn't always have to include the child. It can also occur when a child witnesses sexual act at a very early age. Mm-hmm. For example, some examples of sexual abuse include a child experiencing in their child's sexual intercourse, a child witnessing another adult acting in a sexual manner, a child witnessing pornography, sexual assault, sudden, you get it.
I dated a guy whose dad used to cheat on his mom and take him with him to the trailer where he would have sex with another woman when he was little.
And was he in the trailer while he didn't even have him wait outside? He was in the trailer.
I think so, yeah.
That is trauma. That's extremely traumatic.
And would watch porn in front of him. He also cheated on me wildly and was abusive physically. So there are negatives to this.
There are some negatives.
Downsides.
Little things you wouldn't even think of.
No.
Which reminds me, before the show, I was at the cafe down this, on the sidewalk.
Yep.
And there was a little dog there.
Yeah.
And I was saying hello, and the woman said his name is Arthur.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I had an ex-boyfriend named Arthur. And she said something, and I said, well, hopefully the dog won't die of a drug overdose. And she was like, oh my God. I'm like, no, it's fine. I go, it's a long time ago, and he wasn't that great. And, you know what I mean?
It's a
fine.
relief.
I don't know why I say these things. She didn't have to know that.
I know, but
why do I say these things?
Sometimes isn't it nice to just fully
amusing
be
myself.
yourself in front of other, in the wrong places? It's like...
Yeah. But then I made up for it because I told her and the older lady she was talking to, because they were talking about dogs the whole time.
Yeah.
So, of course, I proselytized about the dog show. The dog house.
Good. Keep spreading the word.
And, I'm trying. I am a one-person, billboard for that
I'm glad
show.
I can bring some joy to you.
You absolutely have.
You
absolutely have.
I love it so much.
Unfortunately, some children have to experience the loss of a loved one or family member at a young age. However, when this death is due to murder or suicide, the experience can become very traumatic for them. On the other hand, a loved one dying by suicide can leave a very deep wound in a child, especially if that person was a parent or caregiver. In these situations, the usual prominent emotions are anger and guilt. A person might ask questions or think things like, why did this person choose to leave me? I could have done something to prevent this. Kidnapping. This is an incredibly traumatic and terrible experience for anyone to have, but even more so for a child. Children do not have... Okay, I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Okay.
No, this is a good time to laugh.
I was getting my nails done yesterday, and...
They look incredible for the people that can't see them.
Thank you. And they always have the local news on at this place where I get my nails done, and they were talking... I may have to cut this out, but they were talking about that girl from Montrose who got kidnapped. She's this adorable... like 15-year-old, and I don't know, it's been like a week, and
I don't know anything about this.
yeah, she's I think she was on her bicycle, and
God.
yeah, so she's been missing. And the woman who does my nails is, I think, Vietnamese, and
Okay.
her English is pretty challenging.
Okay.
So she goes, okay, I'm not gonna do the accent, but she goes, it's a week, dead, rape, dead.
God.
You know, Alex has been making these animations where it's like little stick figures who move their lips, and she offered to do one for us of like funny moments from the show. I think that's it.
Does she need to hear that though? That's pretty awful. Oh my God. She's just...
Could that be merch?
Rape, dead. It could be the way she said it because she didn't really pronounce it right. It was more like rap, dead. But
Yes, could that be a shirt?
but then she said,
Oh God.
But then she said that's why you can't let kids go anywhere until they're like, I don't think she said like 18. They can't go. But
Yeah.
you were in my head.
Yeah.
So I said, actually, kidnapping doesn't happen that much. It's usually, and if someone is kidnapped, it's usually by someone they know. So it's not just like random. And she said, oh, that's true. So I don't know.
Good job, Danielle.
So you were in my head.
my constant proselytizing on
Yes. That
Helicoptering.
and the
the dog. If
house.
I can leave you with two lessons, which is the dog house,
watch the dog house, and kids don't really get kidnapped.
let
that
your
much.
kids go outside.
Yeah. Okay. So kidnapping. This is.
I'm never going to stop laughing about that.
You know what's funny? I was so worried we weren't going to find any humor with this topic, but look, we did.
You know what? I've
silver lining.
I've found so much humor my whole life in this topic.
Really?
I mean, if you can't laugh about it.
This is an incredibly traumatic and terrible experience. Oh, I thought you meant kidnapping specifically.
Oh,
mean,
no.
in general.
I just meant childhood trauma.
This is an incredibly traumatic and terrible experience for anyone to have, but even more so for a child, obviously. Children do not have the tools and ability to protect themselves on their own. They rely on adults and caregivers for protection and safety. Imagine knowing this as a child and being kidnapped and held hostage with a sense of uncertainty, fear, and feeling unsafe. Violence in the household. Okay, I think we understand what that means. Neglect. I like to call neglect the invisible trauma. Neglect is by no means less important, quite the opposite, in fact. But because it is often difficult to identify this as a traumatic experience, it isn't as evident as other human trauma. This can include acts such as not attending to a child's emotional needs, not offering support and security in times of distress, not making sure that the child has their basic needs met, such as food, clothing, and hygiene. Very often, neglect by itself doesn't imply violence or physical damage. Usually, it's much more indirect and normalized by the children who experience it. However, because this is so difficult to identify, it can become a very deep-rooted trauma that can influence a person's mental health later in life.
I worry a lot that I neglect my kids.
Oh my God.
Because of my own experiences, that like I expect too much of them to be too independent. Like I don't.
That's not neglect.
Like I don't mother them enough in the way that maybe other mothers do because of like.
You didn't really have that.
Well, I don't know the sort of line of what people do. Like this morning, Benjamin, I said, okay, I'm going to make breakfast. What does everybody want? And Alex was like, I'll have oatmeal. And I was like, great, that's what I'm making. There was leftover, so I heated it up. And Benji was like, I don't know. And I was like, all right. So I didn't make him anything. And then later he came to the table while we were finishing up. He goes, where's my oatmeal? And I go, I didn't make you any because you said you didn't know what you wanted. Well, I want oatmeal. I go, well, go make some because I got to go get ready for work.
Yeah.
And I was like, would other mothers be like, oh, okay, I'll get up and make you your oatmeal now? But I was like, I don't have time. I got to get ready.
I think you and I have discussed this before, I believe.
Yeah.
I actually admire how resilient you make your kids. I don't think it's neglect. First of all, you're not neglectful of your kids. You have deep, interesting conversations with them and always, attend to them and know their personalities. And like, I don't think that's not even like a thought. I do understand what you're saying. And yes, I probably would have been like, oh, okay, then I'll make you something because I'm too much of a pusher. Or I'm just like too, whatever that is, I'm too much that way. But also, I don't think you would like let them go to school without eating something, right?
They do.
Oh, they do?
But that's because I don't get up in the morning.
No, I know Sven
does.
gets them, yeah.
And he puts food out for them. And sometimes they don't eat it. But like,
well, there's nothing you can do, I guess.
I think it's that. It's not because
you're providing food for them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there are other ways where I'll see like, I don't know, other parents doing things that I'll be like, oh, I didn't do that. And I don't know if that's just a normal thing that a lot of parents feel like, or if I'm just like, oh, I should be more interested in keeping up on these things. But then I just go, is that maybe how all parents feel?
I also don't think that there's a right or wrong. Necessarily. I think every kid is different and every parent is different and there's no exact way to do everything.
Yeah.
And I, like I've said, I wish I made Oliver a little more independent.
Anyway, sorry, I digressed
No,
on
I'm
the...
happy you digressed. Okay. Where am I? Okay. Very often, okay, I read that. Okay, adults who are healing from childhood trauma usually learn to interact with others in unhealthy ways. Sometimes these interactions result in certain relational behaviors. These will depend on the kind of trauma they have experienced and what they have learned about others through this early life experience. For example, if a person has child trauma due to neglect in their childhood, they may feel like they aren't deserving of other people's affection. Does that ring true to you?
I don't think so. But I mean, I also did a lot of therapy.
Yeah.
Like I did the work, you guys.
This pattern develops because that is what they have led to believe when they were younger, oftentimes by family members or loved ones. As a result, this person may stay in relationships where they are mistreated and neglected by their partner. They won't look for a different relationship because they feel like they don't deserve it. Hypervigilance. This is a human reaction for those who have experienced trauma. Hypervigilance consists of feeling constantly threatened.
Yes.
This is Alex. This is a Chris.
And
Yes.
Alex.
Oh, yeah, that's true. It wasn't
Yeah.
a Freudian slip, I promise. I
Yes.
meant to say Chris. For example, it could be the fear of being attacked or trapped at any moment. Oftentimes, this is when an adult becomes very aware of their surroundings when in a new environment.
Yep.
Yeah, you said you're always checking exits.
Oh,
and
yeah. Any movie, I'm just like, okay, how do we get out of here if we need to?
Right.
Trader Joe's. I'm basically like, what if a gunman comes into any situation I'm in?
Oh, God. For example, they could be hypervigilant when meeting a new person. They could also be hypervigilant in physical spaces or situations. Either way, this reaction is the result of childhood trauma. Just saying how far. Okay, I'm fine. Depression and anxiety. Apart from other mental health risk factors, people can also experience depression and or anxiety as a result of childhood trauma. These two disorders usually appear hand in hand and can make the person feel hopeless and isolated. If you're struggling with depression or anxiety, you should consult the help of a mental health professional. I think we know that. Okay, PTSD is a mental health disorder. It occurs when an individual is exposed to a traumatizing event. According to the DSM, it's considered to be an anxiety disorder. People who have PTSD often have flashbacks of the trauma and are so distressed by their triggers that they go to significant lengths to avoid them. This comes with more symptoms of its own, such as changes in mood, flashbacks, nightmares, and panic attacks. And I would say, as we might learn later, I'm not sure, but memory suppression. A lot of like disassociating, as they say.
Sven thinks that I have a trauma in my past that I have suppressed.
Really?
Because every dream I have is a nightmare.
Oh, that's right. You did say that.
But like, that's been my whole life, like since childhood. Once in a while, I'll have a dream that's not a nightmare, I should say. But like, almost every dream I have is a nightmare. And
do you think he's right?
How would I know if I've
know.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so.
I think the stuff you remember is kind of covers the bases. I mean, I think they're enough.
Maybe that's enough.
Yeah.
I thought that about myself too for a while.
That you might have
I couldn't there's so much of my childhood that I don't remember.
I was going to say, when I ask you about things, you're kind of like, yeah, you're like vague on the memories,
because I don't
which is
remember much of anything. But then I
weird.
discovered that depression does that, and I think that maybe I had that my whole childhood.
Yeah.
That either for my parents' divorce or for whatever else or whatever, that I lived with that for so long, and most of these memories just faded away, or maybe that's normal. I don't even know.
I think part of it's
so
normal.
Weird, because I have
It's
depression and I
strange.
remember my childhood pretty clearly.
I did also have a head injury as a kid, so maybe that erased some things too.
Okay.
Possibly.
I was on a tire swing, got pushed into the
I think you told us.
yeah.
Yeah, that
and
could
ended up in the hospital with a concussion.
that could
And
be.
a freak out or something.
My mom's also very much like, I mean, whatever she remembers is terrible, but also a lot of it, I'll say, what about this? Like, what did you, like, if I ask her a question, like, oh, did you like this about high school? And she'll go, I don't really know. Or I'll ask her something about from when we were young, and she'll go, I don't know. Like,
And what do you think that is? Avoidance?
no,
Lack of.
I think I think so much of it was just bad and unhappy, and she has depression, anxiety stuff. Well, more anxiety that I think she really just doesn't remember.
Wow. The mind is an amazing thing. If you've
Right?
ever read the book Sybil, which the movie is based on.
Is it about
Well, she has multiple personalities. And I mean, I guess some people don't think it's true, but because you've dealt with so much trauma, your brain not literally, metaphorically splits.
what if it was literally?
And is able to create different ways to deal with different parts of. I mean, it's that book has always stayed with me because it was just like, wow, our minds are amazing.
They are.
Okay, the effect of childhood trauma. Okay, 3 steps to overcome childhood trauma. 1, recognize the trauma. The adult must acknowledge this certain childhood experience as trauma. It's this first step of coming to terms with how the trauma has affected them and accepting that it's okay. This will help them give meaning to their current difficulties and make sense of their struggles. Be patient with yourself. Self-criticism and guilt can be very common when it comes to adults who have lived through a traumatic childhood. Some people may ask, why do I act this way? What's wrong with me? I could have dealt with this in a better way. These thought patterns can lead to hopelessness and frustration. The key here is to stop and think. You were not responsible for what happened. Your childhood trauma has left a scar, and you're trying your best to heal. But just like all wounds, it's important to take all the time to heal correctly. Be patient and loving with yourself. Treat yourself like you would a best friend. I'm certainly not playing one-upsman because I do not think I had a traumatic childhood, but I relate to so many of things of what they're saying.
Yeah.
That my parents just fought all the time. And that's my memory.
I think that's traumatic.
And it felt bad.
Yeah.
You know, it just felt bad. And this all just is very, like, the constant questioning yourself and all that stuff. That's very relatable. Anyway, reach out for help. Rely on loved ones for emotional support and understanding. In these cases, one of the key components is feeling heard, understood, and validated. Especially with childhood trauma, one can feel alone and isolated. It is common to feel like no one will understand or empathize. But in reality, this couldn't be further from the truth. If we give people the chance, they can become a great support system for us. And apparently 60% of people have suffered childhood trauma.
Yeah.
We must not forget the importance of seeking help from a mental health professional who is trained in trauma treatment. A clinician can help heal these deep wounds to improve relationships. They can also help identify unhealthy patterns and coping mechanisms and improve your mental fitness. Okay, I'm not gonna go through all of this because there's all these different kinds of therapies, and some of them kind of sound like each other, but I'm just gonna give a little brief description of each one.
Love it.
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes.
This approach in therapy aims at finding connections between our behaviors and our thoughts and feelings. So pretty basic. Cognitive behavioral therapy focuses on the current problems and systems of the patient. Psychodynamic therapy.
Ooh.
Different from cognitive behavioral approach, this therapy focuses on the unconscious mind. So maybe what you don't remember. Psychodynamic therapy tries to understand the meanings of the trauma and where the patient may be stuck within it. Cognitive processing therapy will help you identify patterns of unhelpful thinking. It also helps you evaluate and modify those thoughts and beliefs that the circumstances of the trauma have generated in you. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. Narrative exposure therapy. This treatment for trauma aims at building a chronological narrative. It essentially looks at the patient's biography by focusing on the traumatic events. With professional help, the person will reconstruct the traumatic events. But alongside the traumatic life events, the person will also reconstruct the positive events. Okay. So I'm going to tell you a story. Now, I read a lot of stories because some of them were so depressing.
Wow.
I did not think it was a great...
Not right for us, maybe?
Maybe not right. So I will read you this one. A flight from LGBT persecution. I'm not saying this is a walk in the park, but
Okay.
some of them were just so,
Sure.
Okay. Growing up in a small Colombian town, Carlos was identified as a feminine boy from the time he was a toddler. See? It's not something people put on you. It can happen. It can start being present as a toddler. Anyway, he was chronically shamed and harassed by male family members and later by peers and other community members. When he reached adolescence, verbal and physical abuse escalated, and one day he was assaulted by a group of men in the street. He was severely beaten and gang raped, because they're homophobic. I never understood it.
Yeah.
I don't get anyway.
This will make you less gay because
now,
we're so straight.
Now we put
doing
our
this to you.
penises in you.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's left for dead on the side of the road. After recovering in the hospital, Carlos realized he could no longer be safe at home.
Poor baby.
And decided to flee to El Norte, which I guess means just to the north. It took Carlos months of traveling in dangerous conditions to reach the United States border. As a result of the many years of insecurity experienced in his family and community, Carlos suffered from chronic fear, severe anxiety, intrusive memories of abuse, recurrent nightmares, and an inability to trust others. Fortunate to arrive in the San Francisco Bay Area, where he found pro bono legal support and was granted asylum status, he began working. Despite his increased social and economic security, Carlos continued to suffer from debilitating symptoms of post-traumatic stress. His attorney helped him connect with specialized psychological support, and Carlos began attending individual therapy. For the first time, Carlos was able to talk about his lifelong experience of rejection and persecution and began experiencing hope of being accepted for who he was. Regaining the ability to trust in another human being constituted the foundation of his healing process. Carlos had lost the ability to read and write due to his extreme trauma.
Wow.
With the necessary emotional support, he gradually recovered his literacy skills and was then able to learn English. So now he's bilingual. With increased feelings of internal and external security, Carlos was able to complete a training program in his area of professional interest. Today, he is recognized as a successful teacher and mentor in his field.
Oh,
So
yay, Carlos.
sometimes you need to just talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully with a professional.
Yes. Not us.
No. Just laugh in your face.
We're idiots.
We are idiots.
Well, you know what we'll say? So what?
So what?
Or who cares?
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah. Who cares?
Just out of nowhere. Oh my God, that was so funny.
We're the assholes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, our names should be on a whiteboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
The asshole whiteboard, we're
Yeah.
at the top.
Yeah.
But there are kind people out there,
100%.
and you should talk to them.
Yes. And people who can empathize with you.
People who have like degrees in this.
Right. All right. Well, we will be back with our guest right after
Can't
this.
wait.
Fall is here, and if you want to sleep in the coziest bed imaginable, you have to start with Boll & Branch's best-selling 100% organic cotton sheets. You'll spend every night wrapped in buttery, breathable softness and feel your sheets get even softer with every wash. Discover the difference with Boll & Branch's 30-night guarantee. Plus, get 15% off and free shipping on your first set of sheets. Visit bollandbranch.com and use code WONDERY15. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
And we're back with Canva Presents Secret Sounds Work Edition. Caller, guess this sound.
It's a mouse click.
So close! That's actually publishing a website with Canva Docs. Next caller.
Definitely a mouse click.
Nice try. It was sorting 100 sticky notes with a Canva whiteboard. We also would have accepted resizing a Canva video into 10 different sizes.
What? No way.
Yes way. One click can go a long way. Love your work at canva.com.
Welcome back. How was your break?
Uneventful.
Really?
Yeah.
No trauma in your break?
You know what? It's repressed.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's fast-acting repression.
I can repress my
The mind
trauma
is an
so
amazing thing.
so fast.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. That's how I do things.
I love it. Okay, well, on the first half of the show, we talked about how to survive childhood trauma. And now we're going to talk about how to survive childhood trauma and how to survive when it gets turned into a TV show.
What?
With Dannah Phirman.
Hello, Dannah.
Hey,
Thanks for coming.
guys. Thanks for having me. Big fan. Big fan of the
thank
show.
you. Back at you. Dannah, if you don't know, is a very, very funny actress and writer, TV writer. And she played the lead character on a little show called Word Girl.
Whoa.
Which everyone knows.
Which is, a lot of people do know it.
Yeah.
It's really funny. I don't say so myself. I wrote a few episodes of it, but it's Dannah's hysterical, and
it's a super cute show.
It's very cute. And are you writing on a show now?
I'm not, because Hollywood is dead.
Because there's no shows. Yeah.
The industry has burned to a crisp.
True. Yeah.
But I actually am writing on a little preschool show that I really enjoy called
good.
Gabby's Dollhouse. It's so cute.
Oh, good.
And then just like developing and hoping for the best.
That's good.
Yeah.
Developing and hoping is good.
Yeah, you have to have
positive.
hope.
Yeah.
Hope is important.
It is.
Better than despair.
It floats. Yeah.
It floats. Okay.
Sorry.
Dannah.
Hi.
Tell us about your childhood trauma.
Okay. So my sister actually wrote a wonderful memoir about this time in our lives called When She Comes Back. Mm-hmm. And if you want the full story with all the details, I urge you to get that.
Did you guys have to wrestle over who got to write the memoir?
What's funny is that instead I wrote a TV show about it.
Okay, which we're going to get to.
So we'll get to that. But basically, did you guys see the documentary Wild Wild Country?
Of course.
Yes.
Okay, so my mom was there.
Oh my God.
So she left us when I was about 4 to go to India, to be in that Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. It was not called a cult at the time, obviously.
Yeah.
Sure.
She was a Rajneeshi. She wore orange. She did the whole thing. And so when
Can I ask where you guys were living?
So we had moved, we were overseas, and then we moved to Seattle. And they got a divorce.
Okay.
I was like 3. There had been some cheating. It was a whole thing.
Okay.
It was the 70s.
Yeah.
You know?
Key parties.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, it was fine. It was the 70s. But my dad left to go to Jersey to live with his girlfriend.
All the way across
and her 2
the country.
daughters, all the way across the country. Leaving my mom. We had lived in Israel on a kibbutz, which is like a commune.
Oh.
So that's where I was born. They're both New Yorkers. I know. This is why it's a long story.
That's okay. No, it's fascinating.
So the reason I bring that up is because my mom had met my dad at like 17 years old.
Oh.
Had lived on a commune, where everything, like she cooked for everybody. Everybody did jobs. Nobody was paid anything. Nobody knew how to use a bank account.
Yeah, okay.
So she comes back, he leaves, and she's left with these 2 little girls, and she's depressed and broke. Mm-hmm. So a friend brought her to this like meditation with this, really I think it was just a tape or a record of this guru talking.
Okay.
And she went and she was like, this is it. And they're like, you gotta go to India. She was like, I gotta go to India. So she tried to kind of park us at different places. And first she wanted to bring us there. And my dad was like, no way. Because this is right after like everyone died from the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, right.
He finally took us. So that's the first time she left.
Okay.
So we ended up in Jersey with my dad and his girlfriend and her 2 daughters in this like 1-bedroom, tiny.
Oh my God.
Nobody liked having us there except my dad. So he moved us finally to Flushing, Queens.
All right.
In an apartment building for the 3 of us with like this big 3-bedroom apartment at the Newport apartment building.
Okay.
And it was like luxury at some point.
And you're like
But by the time we
4?
moved in, I was 5 at this time.
And your sister was?
7.
Okay.
And it was the 3 of us. Mm-hmm. So we lived in this very multicultural part of Queens. I think, largely Korean. Now it's largely Chinese, I believe. But at the time, it was very Korean. Mm-hmm. And like the corner store had kimbap. And like I grew up on like Korean food. Loved it. So... yeah, so he did a good job. It was tough, but he did a pretty good job being a single dad. My mom moved back after a year, looking fabulous, by the way.
Oh, it's good for her.
Glowing.
Wow.
Just gorgeous. Like never been better.
Yeah.
Meditating, probably some sex, like just having the best time. But when she moved back, she moved to Manhattan. We lived in Queens with my dad. So we saw her like every other weekend.
Okay.
So not very much.
So she didn't have the instinct to take you guys?
She did not.
Okay.
And so this is the part of the healing that has happened as an adult where we've really gotten to like get into it. And she's had some really great therapy. I've had some really great therapy.
Okay.
My sister's had great. So we've all, kind of gotten to the point where I can understand where she was at. She was pretty young, depressed, all the whole thing. And her mom sucked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her mom was abusive. And I think she felt like she would be a terrible mom.
I see.
And that, like, on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And that my dad would just do a better job.
Yeah.
And he was there. Like, he did do a good job.
Yeah. Good.
He food on the table. We could talk about anything.
Yeah.
He did a good job. A little angry. Sure.
Sometimes
sure.
He's a dad.
He's a dad.
Yeah,
A little
sometimes
angry.
women aren't the nurturing ones. Like sometimes men can be better at it. Like I think there's the expectation that it's always going to be the mom because that makes sense, but it's not always.
Yeah.
They're not always the best ones at it.
They're not always the best ones at it. That reminded me, I was working at It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And I was kind of in the throes of like dealing with this. It was still raw,
Yeah.
And or just in a raw phase, it comes in.
Yeah, I bet.
And Rob was, on the show and was like running the room. I don't know how it even came. He goes, just, what the worst thing a woman can do? The worst thing, and it's not fair, but it's true. The worst thing a woman can do is leave her kids. It's like the worst thing. And I was like, if you'll excuse me. And I went to the bathroom. I'm going to put my head in the toilet.
Oh my God.
But yes,
amazing.
it sort of is. And I think even still, I don't think it's okay.
It's also
I think we
really
like
hard.
look down on it.
Yeah.
I do. And
Yeah.
it's also really hard to comprehend. I think that's it. It's just very hard to comprehend feeling that way.
It is.
I mean, it's not all the other stuff. Feeling depressed and feeling isolated and feeling like maybe I can't do this.
Right.
I think that's all relatable.
Yes.
But the step of not wanting to be with your children is so foreign. Like it's hard for me to.
And I, of course, having kids worried and wondered.
I was gonna,
Like, am I gonna have that
Yeah.
instinct? And I knew probably not. I always loved kids. I wanted kids. I wanted to be there, especially because of that.
Yeah.
But I remember when they were like 3 and 5, which is about when she kind of took off around those ages. I was like,
God.
this is fucking hard.
Yeah.
And like
And boring
and
a lot
a
of
little
times.
boring.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I almost get it.
Yeah.
But not for that long.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it was the 70s, 80s at this point.
It
was
seems
the
like
80s.
a weird time. Okay, so she comes back from the cult.
So she comes back and we see her every other weekend. And those were, she also got into Est. Do you know that one?
yeah.
Featured on The Americans.
Love that show.
yes, that was so cool.
Yeah, but they really painted it in like a positive
Yes,
light. It
yeah.
really wasn't great, especially as a kid of a parent in it. It meant spending most of my weekends asleep on the floor while she rolled calls to get people to come to Est. Because that was what you had to do if you
Because
were part
she
of
didn't
it.
ha- she
You
didn't
had
have
to
a
get
bed
more
for you?
people to come.
No, why were you asleep on the floor?
Because she was there so late. It was
I
an
thought-
office.
Oh, I'm sorry. She was doing
it
it
was
from
an
home.
office. And then
Oh God. Okay.
she met this lady, Nirvana. Thank you. Pause for laughter.
This is amazing.
She met a lady named Nirvana when I was about 9. And Nirvana, I think, was in Est with her. She was in one of these things with her. And Nirvana encouraged her. She was like, he's back. Bhagwan's in Oregon. He's got a ranch. He's back. People, you should go. Meanwhile, Nirvana lived in my mom's apartment while she was gone and took everything. Ripped my mom, but took all my grandmother's
kidding?
jewelry that she everything my grandmother had left to her. All the, anything of value Nirvana took. And when my mom saw that she had taken everything and called Nirvana's mom, I don't know why she had her number. Her mom was like, I am not doing this again.
Oh
So Nirvana was a total shyster.
Yeah.
But you know what's sad is that I liked Nirvana.
Well,
My
you didn't know.
sister knew. My sister was
Yeah.
like, there's something up with that lady.
She's
I don't
charming,
like her.
I bet.
She calls herself Nirvana.
She calls herself Nirvana. She gave me, this is so sad. This tells you where I was at for maternal affection. She gave me like a head massage with
Yeah.
her fingers. And I was like, Nirvana's my best friend.
Oh.
I want Nirvana to be my mom. I love her. And,
Yeah.
I
get
just
it.
bad judgment. Anyway, Nirvana ripped her off. But so she went to Oregon when I was about 9 or 10. Maybe it was 10. And lived on the ranch for a while. But basically, when she got there, the helicopters started circling.
Oh, okay.
So it was at
She
the
was
end.
there at the end.
She did
Okay.
meet Sheila.
She did.
Wow.
Okay.
She said Sheila liked her.
Tough titties.
Tough titties.
What?
And is that what you're saying?
That's one of the things that
Yes.
Sheila would say.
Tough titties.
Yeah.
And that was a joke.
Yeah.
For anyone who has not seen what's it called?
Wild Country.
Wild Country.
God,
You have to see
watch it now.
And then you have to watch Nassim Pedrad do her because
Oh,
it's
yeah, that's right.
theory. It's so
I don't
good.
know if I've seen
Oh,
that.
it's so funny. It's
Okay.
She
amazing.
does a really good impression. But I forgot about that. Tough titties. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my
So
mom
she gets there right. It's
got there and then
collapsing.
basically stayed a few months, and then he got arrested, and she
Yeah.
ended up moving to Seattle and living there.
Again without you. It's so fucking crazy.
Thank you for reminding me,
I'm
Danielle.
sorry,
No, it's
Dawn.
true. It was without me and my sister. My dad had remarried when I was about 12, 13.
To that girlfriend?
No, she was long gone. To my stepmom for about 8 years. They were married.
Okay.
And I think my mom's like, well, she'll be better than me.
Right.
She was not.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
She did her best. She was young. Anyway, so yeah. So
It's crazy.
basically, when I had kids, I was like, all I have to do is not leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bar is
bar's
low.
The bar is low.
Yeah.
I can just kind of like
You just be there.
skate by,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah,
I think that's true.
I think it's true.
Yeah.
I definitely subscribe to the good enough
Yeah.
parenting
And then you
model.
have
Yes.
kids the same age difference as you and your
Yes.
sister.
And so does my sister, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does she have girls or
She has a boy and a girl.
boy and a girl? Okay, so how does this now
Okay.
come to be a television program?
So it was 2016.
Okay.
So it's a while ago.
Great year.
Great year.
Yeah.
Do you remember it?
I feel like I'm living it all over again.
And my writing partner and I, Danielle Schneider, very funny.
Very funny.
Very funny. We're talking like, what else can we exploit to
Yeah.
get a TV show
Sure.
on the air? And I was like, what about my weird childhood? And she was like, that's great.
Of course.
So we pitch a bunch of places, and people really respond to it. The idea of a single dad with his two girls moving into this very multicultural neighborhood in
Yeah.
Queens. And ABC wants it.
No, I'm sorry. I just want
Yeah.
Did you pitch it as a comedy?
Yes, as a half-hour single cam, which
Okay.
means like not in front of an audience.
Right.
It's like kind of
Arrested
a little bit
Development.
more,
Yeah.
a little bit more edgy, but it's family, like Modern Family, maybe.
Yeah.
Gulp. Sorry. So yeah, so we pitch it and everybody likes it, which is huge to sell a pilot.
Yes.
Especially to a
Huge.
network, and it's crazy.
Especially to a network.
Yes.
And for us at the time, it was like a really big deal, very exciting. So we sell this show, and that means that we just gave them the premise, which is basically what I told you guys.
Okay.
It's just dad, single. You know, we had characters in the building
Uh-huh.
who would become sort of a family around the girls and him. And he's like based on my dad. He's this very intellectual nerd, you know, who has a fact about everything, which is true. And we made him a little more emotionally stunted, and so he would not quite be able to you know, understand the girls, and
Right.
he needs a journey. And he's a freelance writer who wants to write about like nonfiction, boring stuff.
Okay.
So the first thing ABC does is give us two supervising writers.
Okay.
Because we haven't run a room yet. We haven't run our own writer's room. And they are awesome. They are two fantastic ladies who have written, Trophy Wife and all these different, Run the Room. And we saw eye to eye. We loved each other. Great. And then we start writing the script, and they decide we need what one of the execs called a godfather.
Okay.
I was going to say, I'm so glad the women running the room were women.
Right.
But
this was before Me Too, and before we could be like, and we even said like, well, why? What do we need? You need a producer who's, and we're like, well, we have a lot of like women who we could think of. And she specifically said it needed to be a man.
Oh, this is a woman who said it?
Yes.
Bananas. Okay.
Yes. Our executives are all women.
Ah, interesting.
So it was like too many women for them. So we got Larry Wilmore, who
wow.
was fantastic.
Okay. Yes.
Because he knew it was bullshit, and he kind of was like, whatever you
Yeah.
guys want to do, if I can help, let me help. I'll give you some ideas. But
Okay.
So he was awesome. So that was great.
And he's black.
And he's black.
So yay.
So yay. Yeah. And just very funny and talented. So we get to work on it, and basically, it's like, it's so typical, but they just destroyed it. They just ruined it. I shouldn't say it, right? Should I say it? I mean, who cares? ABC's not going to hire me right now. So anyway,
Those people are long gone, probably.
They actually are. Some of them fired. Others just long gone. But so they decide it should be more of a, like, what do they call it? A vertical cul-de-sac was the term they kept using. So they wanted it to be more about, like, the community and the group rather than just the family.
Okay. More of an ensemble
More of an
style.
ensemble.
Okay.
So like Modern Family, you're going back and forth between all these families?
I guess maybe that's what maybe if we had done that, they would have picked it up. But we didn't do that.
Okay.
We just kept getting them involved more. And then they changed the ages of the girls, which makes sense. They were now, like, instead of little girls, because they don't want to shoot that, they were now 10 and 12.
Okay. And
we had to hire the actors, and, this little girl came in and was super, like, quirky and funny. And so we hired her, and then I remember on set, I, like, walked by her in a moment where she was, like, off.
Oh.
And just, like, turned off. And, like, just dead eyes and kind of just, like, staring into space. I was like, oh, no. Why are we working with kids? What have I done to this poor girl who's, like, so charming and all the time, and then, like, in real life just, like...
oh, no.
And the parents, like, super friendly and pushy. Oh, kid acting. It's so rough. It's so rough. And then we started auditioning for the main guy from my dad, and... saw some really, really funny comedians. And I don't know if you know Andy Daly, but he auditioned, and
he's been on our show.
Oh, great. We were like, he's it.
Yeah.
He was so good. He's so warm, but also so sharp.
So funny.
So funny.
Yeah.
And they decided to go a different direction because they wanted to go with someone who they had wanted to work with, who is a good friend of ours, but was a totally different type.
Okay.
And so it's no offense to him, but it just wasn't our vision.
Right.
So they decided to go with Rob Riggle, who is really funny.
Very different,
But very different. So now he's a sports writer. And
okay,
this really is like a cliche of like,
it's so ridiculous.
Now the girls are boys.
Yeah, I mean,
and the mother is an astronaut. She's not on a cult.
Well, so
they live in Manhattan, and they're in a penthouse.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of talk. Like, it was very hard for them to get around why she left. Like,
right, just as in real life.
Yeah, like why? So we came up with that. She was doing everything for him. She was cooking and cleaning and working, and it was just too much, and she needed to go take a break with the idea that she'd probably come back into the series at some point.
All right.
But we had to, like, have that as the explanation.
Okay.
Which is not what happened, but that's okay. I understand it's a hard thing to understand.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm trying to remember everything that happened.
And is it a period show?
So no. So we had to bring it up to date.
Okay.
So it had to be now, which is even harder because, it was just a lot to explain for now because, it's still weird for a mom to leave, but...
It would have made more sense then, honestly, because
it was a different time.
It was a different time.
Parenting, I think I don't want to say we love our kids more, but like children were not as I don't think kids were as prioritized.
Oh, no.
Or prized.
Right.
No, absolutely not. It was the adult first. It was parents first, and that was that. And so there were issues all along the way. And then at some point, we turned in our script.
This is for the pilot.
This is for the pilot. And we were really happy with it. Our supervisors were happy. Larry was happy. But because we switched actors, they wanted to make it more like a Tim Allen.
No.
We actually were shooting in the Tim Allen's studio. So, and we had Rob, and he's so, all-American. And so... they decided to turn it into a multicam, which is
I knew that was the next thing.
In front of an audience.
Okay. So had you actually cast Andy?
No.
Oh, okay.
We hadn't. We just really wanted to. Once Riggle was cast, there was, I'm like, how do I say this diplomatically? And I don't know exactly. But I'll just say that the girl playing his older daughter, he had a daughter who wanted to be an actor.
Okay.
And she was that age, roughly. And so she was recast. And so we cast his daughter, who did a great job, but it was a tough situation to have to fire a kid and hire, So that happened.
Who let him do that?
Well,
the network wanted him to be happy.
I mean, yes, and also maybe it was a tough role because, and I'm running into this even now with things I work on, nobody likes a teenage girl on TV or in movies because they are emotional, because they are coming into their own. It's really tough to make them quote unquote likable.
Okay.
So we were running into that problem over and over again and really having to but
But does everyone have to be likable?
Right, right. Of
Maybe
course.
they should be accurate.
Of course.
Which is not likable.
Of course. But it's it's a tricky thing still.
Yeah.
Especially for a network.
For girls and for network.
Especially
that was
for
thing. And so
3 camera when it's more of a sitcom.
Right, right. But I still it's all hazy, but I don't think it was anything that girl did, obviously.
Right.
It was just sort of the way it went.
Okay.
So basically, I'm going to take you to the night of the shoot, which is basically, they get everybody into the audience, and usually they have to find people because, and maybe pay them or give them some voucher for something because nobody wants to sit for hours. It takes a long time to do, or especially a pilot where you have to
they
do
don't
take
know
after take.
It's
yeah.
not like going to Friends. Oh, we get to see Friends.
Exactly. It's like they don't know anybody, and we had shot a few things, on set that were just pre-recorded, and I remember my family all came. My dad came and my mom came.
Whoa.
My sister came, her kids and her husband came.
Can your parents sit by each other?
They can. So as of weddings, when my sister got married, they started to be friends again. But my whole childhood, no. They waited. They waited for us So. And they've been awesome grandparents, by the way. My mom is super involved. We talk almost every day.
That's
crazy.
The
epilogue to all.
I
of
love
this.
that.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
But they're watching this, and it's become more and more sappy as the script has gone on. They want more heart moments. It's ABC. They want it to really
They want people to go.
feel. They want a
in
lot
the studio
of
audience.
Ahs, and they asked for them.
Yeah.
And the
More
warm-up comic,
an moment here.
yes, literally. And
notes.
the warm-up comic, I remember peeking out and seeing the warm-up comic throwing candy at my mom and dad and being like, "What have I done?
Yeah.
What have I done?"
This is a movie.
Yeah.
This is. I mean, it's so.
It's so cliche, but
it's
true.
Here's a show about the trauma you all experienced. Here's a Snickers bar in your face.
In your face.
Yes.
When
I
everybody's
want you to write
nervous
this
and-
screenplay.
I know.
So we can
Oh,
see
God.
this.
Yeah.
And then my parents have to watch that. It's just so
And that's
mean.
bastardized.
Just never let it go. I know. So we shoot it, and I remember during the shoot being like, "This is maybe not good."
What did your parents and
Oh yeah,
sisters
I didn't even
say?
talk about that. It was so awkward. It was so awkward. She was, I think, starting to work on her memoir. And I've written this ridiculous version of our lives. She's writing from the heart, this beautiful book about it and her experience in it. And I'm writing this schmaltzy it was so bad. I remember at one point there was that Ariana Grande song that everybody starts singing. Everybody in the building starts, "What are we doing?" It was so bad. It was so bad. And I remember after the run through too, they were like, "Guys, you have to fix this," and we didn't know how to fix it. It was too far gone.
They fucked it up, and then we're like, "You have to fix it."
Absolutely. So they watched the cut, and then we got the news that they weren't going to be moving forward with this version.
Okay.
But they'd like to reimagine it, and I mean, it was just note call after note call. I looked at my notes yesterday just to see what they said, and I think what the version that it ended up with, what we were supposed to go off and write was, he was off at war. He was off at war.
What war?
He was off at war, guys.
Okay, just a war.
He was off at a war.
Yeah.
And that's why when he came back, and the mom was overwhelmed because he was at war.
Yes.
Okay.
And when the mom came back when he came home to Kansas, was where we lived. She was overwhelmed, so she sent us to live with her mother in Queens.
Okay.
I think she died at some point, the mom. I think the mom ended up dying.
What's the only way to forgive
She had
her?
to die.
Yeah.
And then he comes home and is like, what's going on? Let's go back to Kansas. But the girls had already acclimated to Queens, so now he's got to move in with his mother-in-law.
Oh, no.
Because there's got to be some kind of mother figure.
Some kind of mother figure, and they're the odd couple, guys. They do not get along. He's from Kansas, and she's from the city.
And it's what's her face, Estelle from Seinfeld is the mother.
Yeah.
Just
wait, is Olympia Dukakis still alive?
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Yeah, so I think and it just said, like, the last notes I have are like, Donna and Danielle will go off and reimagine this and come back. And like, I guess we just never went back. I think at that point we were like, this is not worth it. Let's move on.
Because you knew it was.
Although it doesn't sound like us, we are so scrappy that I bet we were like, sure, we'll write that.
Yeah.
But someone pulled the plug at some point.
That's amazing.
So yeah, and then we've all sort of like, I still feel bad about it when I think of them sitting there watching it, and
what did they say afterward?
Well, they were all very complimentary and sweet, but you can tell that their faces look like they've been punched, and it would be one thing if it was like good, but it wasn't good anyway, and so they just had to watch like some version of some very, very light version of like my mom's feelings and her experience. Which, to be fair, it's my experience, right? This show, but it wasn't even that anymore.
And I forget, on the show, is she at a cult?
Yes, because we talk about her often.
So
her
they
cult.
still let her be in a cult on that version.
On that version that was shot, she was off on a thing. Yeah, she was finding herself.
All right,
got it.
And he was a sports writer. Yeah, who just didn't know anything about girls.
Oh my God! What do I do with your hair?
My dad's main complaint was that he didn't know how to handle the girls, like that he didn't know to talk to them.
He was like dumbed down
because it was the pilot plot was all about the older daughter, like doing something behind his back because he didn't understand.
Right.
And I talked to my dad, and he was like, I would have talked to her. I would have talked to her. He just didn't understand because he was such a talker.
Yeah.
But, and my mom was just like, ugh, this again, and then the book came out, and she's like, oh, God, I'm never going to live this down.
What? 2 kids. I leave only 2 kids, and it's my whole life.
By the way, now my dad's writing a memoir, so we're all rehashing this whole thing,
Oh, my God.
Got a lot of mileage out of it.
Well, Donna, thank you so much. Yes. It was so lovely to see you.
Thanks for having me. It was great to be here.
Crazy, amazing story.
Such a good story.
And we will be...
Trauma.
Yay! We will be right back with What Did We Learn Today?
This episode is sponsored by AutoTrader. There's a good chance you're driving right now. Look around. Safely. What do you see? Cars. Lots of them. And guess what? They're probably on AutoTrader. Whether you're into timeless classics or the latest trends. Did somebody say solar-powered, eco-friendly, vegan, leather-wrapped, aromatherapy-scented, disco ball-equipped, self-driving car? If you see it on the road, you can likely find it on AutoTrader. Big cars, small cars, blue cars, new cars, used cars, electric cars, and one day, maybe even flying cars. With millions to choose from, buying a car becomes a whole lot easier. See it, find it, AutoTrader. Find your next car on autotrader.com.
This podcast is brought to you by eHarmony, the dating app to find someone you can be yourself with. Why doesn't eHarmony allow copy and paste in first messages? Because you are unique, and your conversations should reflect that. eHarmony wants you to find someone who will get you. How are you going to know who gets you if people send you the same generic conversation starters they message everyone else? Conversations that actually help you get to know each other. Imagine that. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up today.
Danielle.
Yes.
Are you ready to learn what we learned today?
Yes, please.
Sybil is a 1973 book. Shout out to 1973.
In the house.
By Flora Retta Schreiber, about a woman with dissociative identity disorder. The book was adapted into 2 movies in 1976 and 2007.
Who was in the 2007 one?
I didn't know there was a 2007.
The 2006 is
let's try to
Sally
guess.
Field.
2007?
Angelina Jolie. No.
I'm going to say Tara Reid.
Oh, my God. Hilarious.
It feels like I'm not going to remember her name. Sienna Miller? Is that her name? Yeah, it feels like a Sienna Miller.
Oh, she's my next hair my next hair journey.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to show you a picture, Danielle.
Okay, it's someone named Tammy Blanchard.
Never heard of her.
But Jessica Lange is also in it, and Jo Beth Williams.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. The book includes details of abuse at the hands of a likely schizophrenic mother. It also delves into the psychoanalytic treatments used to help Sybil, giving insight into the history of mental health practices and the evolution of trauma therapy.
Yep.
Trauma is survivable. There are many tools and types of therapy that can help you process and succeed despite the trauma you may have experienced. Netflix's Wild Wild Country is about a controversial guru who builds a utopian city in the Oregon desert that causes a massive conflict with local ranchers. The docuseries chronicles the conflict, which leads to the first bioterror attack in the United States and a massive case of illegal wiretapping. It is a pivotal but largely forgotten time in American cultural history that tested the country's tolerance for the separation of church and state. And it's gosh darn entertaining.
It's really amazing. Is that all of what we learned? Did we learn anything else?
I don't think so.
That was it.
Well, we've taught you everything we can for today.
Yep.
We hope you enjoyed it. You know, guys, we have merchandise, and at some point, I'm going to load that new merchandise onto the site.
We have new designs,
We have new designs that I just think I have to really, okay with you guys and make sure that they're good enough.
I'm excited, yeah.
And we have that new shirt coming. If you're a bonus episode listener, you know what's coming.
I might include that in the regular.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. We'll think about it.
Definitely sign up for the Patreon just in case, though.
Yeah. Sign up for the Patreon
So you know what we're talking
you can know what we're referring to right now. Because, I mean, it gave me one of my biggest laughs I've had in a while.
Yeah.
I have to say that was incredible. So I guess until next time, remain calm.